Hi, I'm Kim McLeod.
And I'm Gerald Richards, and welcome to Soulkind Connections. We hope you enjoy our conversation today.
Here we are. We're back.
We're back.
Hello, lovely Gerald. How are you today?
I'm good, my love. How are you, Kim? How are you doing?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good. Here we are, episode 7. And
we've done this 7 times.
Seven. Yeah, lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7.
It depends what part of the world you're in. 8 apparently if you're more in Asia. That's
okay.
Anyway,
not 7.
I don't know.
Okay.
7 we would say. So yeah, and we were continuing the conversation this time on spirituality because we got through the last one and we said we could have kept going for another hour, so we decided to stop and come back.
we cut off, we turned it off, and then we're like still talking about it. So like, let's do it again.
Because we had some really interesting chat last time. So this one we wanted to kind of explore what it was like then to move through the world with someone who is aware of their own spirituality, perhaps of their own soul, and has some sort of spiritual practice, and just sort of talk a little bit about what it means in real life for us then, about how we show up in the world, and how it works.
How it works.
For
how
us.
It works to
how
be.
it works. Yeah. A spiritual person, or someone who's aware of their own spiritual,
Yes.
in a world that isn't always,
Isn't always spiritual, right? Or isn't always. Is it not spiritual? I don't know. You know what? There's actually we said before, right? The difference between religion and spirituality, right? There's a separation there. And there are people who are religious and they move through the world with religion. It's, I think, a very separate thing from moving through the world spiritually, right? Or with a spiritual practice, right? Yeah, because I think you're right. If you move through the world, there's something with, and I'm going to offend people, so I'm just going to offend you all. I would say right? If you move through the world and you're religious, there is an institution there. There are institutions there that you move through, and there's almost a very hierarchical, patriarchal
with a lot
that you move through, and that as you move through that system and you move through that, it tends to be very punitive, right? You are going to hell. You are going to burn. God will not love you if you do this. Da, da, da. And I think when you're spiritual and you move through the world spiritually, you are more thinking about how you impact and the things you do to move through the world, right? Understanding that you make like ripples in a pond, right? And so you move ripples in the world, and you're trying to make. I always think in my mind, you try to make as few ripples as possible.
Maybe you try to make more positive, but you might try to make more positive ripples in the world. That would be how I would think.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. You're not trying to make a tsunami. You're just trying to make like nice, gentle waves on the beach, right?
We could send a tsunami of love and kindness and
you could
and
make
joy.
A tsunami of love.
So it's like
a tsunami of love.
Yeah.
But interesting when the tsunami of love. That's a book or something. There probably already is a movie or a book. It's called. So when you think how you move through the world spiritually, and talk about what you do with work, right, with your business and what you do. What does that mean to you?
So I suppose my thing around being a soul, right? So I'm very aware of my beliefs and vision of life is me as a soul. So connected to consciousness, connected to universe, God, whatever people want to call that. So I have that. So that's me in terms of connection to something beyond myself. And so in my business, which is called Big Soul Network, is what I'm, is the main kind of work that I'm doing now. It's all about trying to look at how we then connect from that perspective. It's so, talking about spirituality and business tend not to go together. That's not not a thing that not a thing that kind of people often think about.
It's not maximizing profit.
No, because it's about then looking at the people, but also then if you're thinking of how you show up in the world, is then aware that you're a soul who is connected to everyone, because my beliefs, we're all souls in human bodies. Our soul is connected to this greater consciousness, and therefore we actually do have impact on each other in terms of this sort of like overarching consciousness. So instead of a religion here we are with a particular religion, we have this, the fabric. It's almost for me the fabric of the universe that we're actually tapped into. So therefore I'm looking at this going, how does that work then in the world of business? So we show up in kindness, because again, for me, the language of the soul is about kindness. It's then thinking of how we impact one another and how we impact the planet, and then how we perhaps how we make profit, because if you're in business, ultimately we need to make money. Yeah, we need to make money. So, yeah. But it's not the pursuit of profit just for money. So then it is about how we connect with each other, how we collaborate, how we actually want to make the world. I suppose the thing is, like, the people who are in my area of work are people with a passion for something, generally who want to make the world a better place in whatever way that they're doing business. Because it doesn't mean that you have to be running some sort of holistic practice or healing practice, but there's a lot of people who are in that space who would go, oh yeah, they would connect with this because it's the type of work that they do. But if you're sitting in some sort of role where you've got a mission to just think that you can have an impact on the world in a positive way, and yeah, you want to make money from that. So, we've got accountants and engineers and people who are offering different services, but they want to think about that they're having some sort of positive impact and not just about the money that they make as their primary goal. So we have some interesting conversations then around this, because for me it's then also trying to turn this big concept into something that's practical. Because that's a lot of the stuff for me is about, okay, we start off with this, so we're all souls and we're connected to consciousness and we want to make the world a better place. How do we do that in practice when in a business context it's not been something that has often been spoken about, because it's really about you're there to make money. So it's trying to kind of go, how do we do that in practice? How do we then build the connections? How do we build the collaboration? How do we build trust? How do we open up the opportunity for somebody to say, oh, I need some help with something, or could somebody help me with this? And it's not just a transactional, oh yeah, I can do that for you. Here's how much my money, here's how much this costs. Here's, it's opening up those things. So we don't have all the answers, of course we don't, but we're just exploring the world in a different way. So,
would you equate it to people over profits, or is it not that? Is that a simplification of what?
I would say people first. People first.
Okay.
Because if we're looking at the impact that we have, and most of the people I'm working with are small business owners, right? So, they're on their own. They're maybe working with a partner. It's not the big, corporates and multinational companies. These are often individuals working on their own. So one of the things is looking after themselves.
Yeah.
Because there's also the people who are working in this with a mission or a purpose tend to put all of their efforts into looking after everybody else and maybe don't think enough about themselves. So that's a factor. But also, if you think about this in whatever you're doing, how does it impact people? From if you are then interacting with another business, how does your interaction with that other business actually show up with that person, as a person, not as a business name, not as, because behind every business name there are people. That's the thing. So it's how we interact with them, and then how we interact with our customers, with our supply chain, the impact that we have then, not just on the, for people, but also on the planet. So it's also then opening up to look at, our environmental issues, and, how we're looking after the, the fabric of the world that we're living in. And are we actually, helping to look after that, as good custodians, or are we just going, oh, we don't really care because ultimately it's cheaper to do this, therefore I want to make more money. So this is the thing, is if we actually only ever approach business from a point of view of money, really we don't care about the interaction we have with other people as long as we make money out of it. We don't really care about how we interact with the planet as long as we make money out of it. And me going, nah, it's just not how I did, not how I want to live in the world.
Not how you want to do business, right? Not how I want to do business. Not how you want. Yeah. And not how people, there's a different way to do business.
Yes.
In the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I still love the entrepreneurial side of things. Yeah. I love it when someone comes up with an idea for something, or they've got a way of sort of solving a problem, because, governments and organisations are, different structures. And if you run a small business and you see something and you think, do you know what, I could help solve a problem for somebody. I can share my gifts with the world in such a way that that then helps people. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, you can do that. You can do that. You could be very proactive. You can move through the world in a different way. So I think that there's an opportunity for us to solve problems in the world and help the world be a happier place and a kinder place through our businesses. It does, because people tend to go, oh, well, we have to leave it. Well, governments are responsible for all these things, and you're going, well, actually, that's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen, right? Or if they do, they're going to do it. It's so bureaucratic and so steeped in things and paperwork and things, rather than it being like, oh, I see something I know how to solve, or I could solve it, or here's my idea to solve it, and solve it, right? And do it, and put yourself out there and do it. Yeah, I mean that in essence, somewhat right with nonprofits and charities, right? There's an issue, the government's not going to take care of it, or the government can't take care of it, or the system is flawed. So you build a nonprofit and you do it, right? At some point, hopefully, you hope that you don't have to do it anymore, and then you put yourself out of business. Right, so the nonprofit doesn't have to exist anymore. It's what should happen, but that's not what usually happens, right? That usually, because the system is the way it is, usually responding to systems. You have to have the multi-level systems change. That's a whole different conversation. Yeah. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, but I think for me, a lot of the stuff around the people aspects of this, and this is maybe when I'm going, well, if you actually were able to have a conversation about what does it mean to be spiritual in your business? What does it mean to add more kindness, to add more joy, to think of sharing wisdom and then generating wealth? And that's the kind of order of stuff that we kind of talk about within Big Soul Network. And I just help facilitate some of those conversations. I love bringing people together. It's one of the things that, that's why you and I are good friends, it's that. But you have interest in conversation, and you just open this up to conversation. And then the magic then happens. It's not me saying, oh, follow this system, come in and you follow from 1 to 25 and everything will be perfect. It is just going, okay, do you know what? Let's have a conversation. And let's just see where things go. And looking at it from, okay, I also give you grace. We've talked about this before. I give you grace to maybe, have a different perspective, a different point of view, and not to, just have to jump in and go, everything has to be how I want the world to be. So yeah, it's an interesting space. It's been an interesting space to work in the last, so that's a year Big Soul Network's been going. So,
Are people responding to it? Are people responding to it?
Yeah, I think, yes. There are some who, if you don't get it, you're probably in a space where you're going, well, business is actually just all about money. And you're not going to then come along to this. But I think more people are. I mean, I have lots of interesting conversations with people who are then going, "Oh, this is a nice way to work." This is the stuff when people are going, "Oh, it's lovely to be able to collaborate with someone else, particularly if you're a small business and you're on your own, because you're having to figure everything out for yourself." And if you can actually build the trust, because this is what it takes time to be willing to be vulnerable, to really share about what is actually happening, and then make the connection with someone that says, "Do you know what, it's okay." So because in this world, if you go out, and I've been in business for 20 years, and I've run different businesses, and I've gone to lots of business events, and I've gone to networking things, and people would always say, "Oh, how's business doing?" And everybody would go, "Great." Great.
Meanwhile, it's like they're like, I don't know how to make payroll. I don't know how these things are gonna happen, right? And they're completely behind the scenes. They're just freaking out. Yeah.
But we were kind of in that space where you don't want to admit your vulnerability. You don't want to admit that something's maybe not quite as you would hope it to be. But if we can actually be honest and have people that are in our circle that we can trust and that we have that level of vulnerability with, then we can actually help solve problems by collaborating. And therefore everybody, and for me then, everybody rises together, because the premise is, I support you, we support this other person, they're doing what, and therefore we can all actually rise together, because it's not about then only one person's ever going to survive in this cutthroat world, because it's like, I can't help you out because you're going to steal my customers from me, and therefore, I won't help you. But if we're actually all coming from a perspective of, okay, let's look at how we can support one another in this, and we can be honest and vulnerable, and we can actually share resources, how we can, collaborate over certain things, how we can help perhaps market things together. It's a different sort of framework. It takes a completely different mindset. And I think if you are coming at this from okay, this is for me the practical spiritual application of things in business. So yeah, interesting world.
Right. Interesting. It's because right. I've worked more in the nonprofit space for 30 years, more than 30 years, and only in the past 6, 7 now, I've started my own business. Well, I have a business partner, and we work with nonprofits. So I'm still in nonprofit space. I'm just on the different end of helping people and supporting nonprofits to work, and I'm doing that. And it's interesting because I also coach. And the coaching piece is, to your point of vulnerability, right? That, I think, is coaching is the space where people can be vulnerable. If you can't be vulnerable in front of people, you can be vulnerable with your coach.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I find that to be, it's helpful, right? People, I found coaching to be, for me, was very valuable. And when I was leading organizations and I was working, because you had this opportunity to, because you can't, there's the interesting part about, right, being vulnerable. In the space of a nonprofit space, to be vulnerable, it's hard, because if you're vulnerable in front of your staff are sometimes get afraid, like, oh my God, what's happening? Why are you freaked out? If you're freaked out, we're going to freak out. You can't be vulnerable in front of your board, because many times your board are business people who don't see vulnerability as a good trait, right? If you're running something, so you don't have a space to be vulnerable. So I was like, coaching was the place to actually be able to be vulnerable, for leaders to find the grace to actually be able to open up, and to sort of almost, I'm going to say lay your soul bare, but to sort of like put yourself out there as who you are and your soul, right? And so that's why I enjoy coaching people. And it's not about bringing, I guess it's bringing spirituality to it without bringing spirituality into it, but it's definitely like about how, you come to me with whatever you're going to come to me for coaching, and I'm asking you questions, and at some point, I'm asking questions. I'm trying for you to be able to have that space for you to be vulnerable. and open and honest, and sometimes find your own way, sometimes have help finding your way. But that space, right? I look at it as that space that allows two souls to come together and to have a conversation, or to support people, right? Because I think at some point that's a part of what is sometimes I think lacking, is to be able to connect with someone that's there to help you, purely there for you, right? Purely there, right? I come to coach, if I'm coaching someone, I'm not coming in and being like, what's in this for me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, what can I do to support you on whatever business, leadership, journey, life, relationship journey you
Yeah.
are on?
Yeah.
And how can I do that? Relationship less, because I don't think I'm a good relationship coach. I'm not probably not a good relationship coach. That's another conversation. But I'm a good life coach. I can be a good life coach, but a good executive coach for people, especially around business. Because I think, to your point of it being, you're not allowed as a business person to be vulnerable, and you need the space to be vulnerable. So what you're creating is a space for people to be vulnerable together. And I think I create a space for people to be vulnerable, just to be vulnerable, right? And
Yeah.
to have that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That, yeah.
I think, look, what we're, so we're both working in that of helping people, right? That's the thing, is we're helping people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to then have oh yes, come in and we're doing spiritual coaching, or, it's not that, it's that thing about spirituality for me is just, it's kind of the operating system.
That's a good way to describe it.
That I would just say it's my operating system, but I'm telling people that, so yeah, so I'm using, this is my framework, this is my spiritual, this is my the operating system that's here, of me as a soul connected to consciousness, having conversations, tuning in to wisdom that comes from perhaps from another source, and actually just helping to share some of that. And the interesting thing I've found, though, when it's taken me a while to be vulnerable enough to share that this is what happens with me. But when I've done this and had the conversations with others, so many people have said, this has been the best conversation, because it's allowed them to go, do you know what? I have looked at, how am I connected to something beyond myself? Where am I getting this sort of stuff from? There's weird things, the kind of, sometimes the strange things that happen and show up that you don't have a kind of rational explanation for.
Yeah.
So I think it's just about creating the space to open up and say, yeah, we can have these conversations around a different thing without us having to say, like, yeah, do you know what? This is it. We're now into spiritual coaching.
We're now into spiritual conversation. Let's talk about spirituality. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That would turn me off completely, right? I think this is the most I've actually, and you and I talk about spirituality, but this is the most in a somewhat public forum. The most I've talked about spirituality really ever. I think I think people tend to not talk about things like that, right? And not talk about it because you don't know how people are going to react to it. And I don't really actually care. I talk about when people ask me, like, that I'm like, I would tell people all the time I'm a Buddhist. Because I never think of Buddhism as, I know it's classified as a religion, but I think of it more as a practice, right? And I think which is when I started practicing Buddhism. At first I was like, oh, it's still a religion. And the person I was talking to was like, no, it's a practice. It's a practice. If you think about it as a practice, it's much more helpful, because you think about it as sort of how you connect to your spirit.
Yeah.
How you connect to your soul, how you look at it, right? And how you do it. And so you then bring that sort of philosophy to how you work, right? So like when I work, like when we are doing our, so we do nonprofit consulting. I guess you call it nonprofit management consulting, but we do fundraising and other things, strategic planning, all the things. And I think about, right, because you're going in and you're working with a company, a nonprofit or a charity. But a charity is made up of people. And so you've come to me and asked me to do something for you or to teach you something, but actually I'm teaching you. And how do you, and I like to connect with the people that we work with. So there's a lot of times we do focus groups and we're asking people questions and we're connecting with them, and we get to if someone asked me what made us different, and I said, you know what, Ben's my business partner. Ben and I tend to embed ourselves in an organization where we almost become part of the organization. Right. So we get to know people because, right, organizations are made up of people. And if you, whatever work you're doing, the people are going to take it forward. And how they take it forward and the more comfort they have in taking it forward is if the people who are helping them come as humans and souls and people to come work rather than coming in a suit and a tie. I think we did one thing and people like, oh, consultants, we expect you to come in suits and ties, and you guys came in like jeans and were like sitting down and like hanging out and having tea and coffee with us and just talking to us. And I was like, well, yeah, that's because that's how we are. And that's who we are. And we'd rather be real to you. We're not going to come in and tell you what to do, right? We might give you recommendations and ways you can work and things you can do, but I'm not coming in thinking to you, I know more than you do. I have more experience. Yeah. I might have more experience of things, and I'm sharing that experience with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So that's it. You're sharing your wisdom.
You're sharing your wisdom.
But that then is, people talk about whether you're in ego or whether you're in you're in soul.
Yeah.
And that thing about, so people's expectations of, having these consultants who'll come in the suits with the big egos because they know best and they know it all, and not actually coming in as the human, as the soul in the human body or whatever, actually coming in and going, okay, we are one of you. We've come from with some different experiences and wisdom learned from different experiences. And what we want to do is understand, actually understand what it's like to be in your shoes. Because I think that's a lot of what, when you go through the world with this sort of framework, I think it helps you to say, well, do you know what? Somebody else is living, they're living their life in, generally most people with the best of intentions. That's the thing. And you're just going, okay, so let me learn a bit from you, and then we'll share our wisdom and share that. And hopefully what we help do is then take that organisation, in your case, on the journey they're looking to go towards.
Yes.
Because that whole adage of we can't solve the problem with the same thinking that created it. So we need we need somebody else to come in and actually help offer us a different perspective. But you're coming from that point of view of, I think this is the thing for me when we were speaking earlier about if you have some sort of sense of your own spiritual essence in whatever way anybody wants to call it, and some sort of practice that allows you a bit of space between the something happening, the reaction, and just going straight out there. If you have got that, there's a little bit more reflectiveness goes on within ourselves, and therefore we're able to show up in the world in a sort of different capacity.
Yes. It's not. It's you being aware of how you move in the world, right, and how you deal with situations and how you think about things, right. And I think you come into a situation, a work situation, or something like when we go into an organization, it's more about, okay, can I help you? I'm learning about your reality, and I'm coming in to understand it, and then what I know about what I do can help you reframe, build, create a new reality, change the problem, fix what you need to do, all of that stuff, rather than it being that of, and I think this is when you have a spiritual practice, I think this is how you see the world, is that you see the world as, right, I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm here to be who I am, and hopefully who I am can help you in some way. At least that's how I see it. It's like how you, if who I am and what I know and what I experience and how I live in the world is of help to you, that's great. If it's not of help to you, no harm, no foul, right? We go and we are living our lives and we do our thing. But if how I live and how I practice and how I do my thing is of help to someone else, then that's great, right? And in hopefully at some point, and that's how I look at when we do consulting, is that I'm like, hopefully in some way I've helped and you've taken it. We usually say to people, like, hopefully what we give you or what we help you with isn't going to sit on a shelf.
Yeah.
A lot of times, right, consultant will give you like a 50-page paper and say, great, go take that away. And you're like, we are never reading this again. Right? I've worked with consultants in that way when I worked in nonprofits, and they've been like, oh my God, they just gave us this thing that we are never going to read.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And my thing is like, okay, I'd like you to, if you can use what I give you, let me give it to you in a way that you can use it.
Yeah.
However you decide to use it. I don't,
Yeah.
If this works for you, that's great. If not.
Because so that's the thing about, and whether, some people might go, oh, what's that got to do with being spiritual? But I think it is just being true to, like you said, your essence of you and being able to offer support and help to other people, as opposed to, I'm going to show you how clever I am by giving you a 50-page report that really proves how clever I am.
How clever we all are, right?
Yeah, and therefore that will justify my large fee. So maybe you should start writing 50-page
50-page reports to get more money, right? I don't know. If I was about profit, more people, I'm like, write more 50-page reports. People would be like, oh my God, he's so brilliant. He sent us a 50-page report. Rather than being like, you know what? I'm now taking what you... Go ahead. Sorry.
No, but exactly what you were saying, though, but being able to then have the impact, because that's what's the important part, is the impact that you're having, and the impact that you're having on that other person and that organisation by sharing some of your own experience. And that goes beyond just, I think for me, it then goes beyond just that sort of personality, what you think in your head. It is actually, you're sharing a bit of yourself, you're sharing a bit of your own essence with someone else when you come at your work from that place.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what you do. And it's understandable why you've worked in the non-profit, because there's, again, a lot of people who are already, I think, maybe a bit more aware of stuff, are more concerned about the world and wanting to fix bigger problems. And that's why non-profits and charities would have been, a draw. And I worked in as HR in a charity, so I also understand that I'm probably, I would say, mission driven. I need a mission. Yeah, I need a mission.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. It's funny because it was a point I remember working in nonprofit. My friends, I had a point in time where my friends worked in marketing or finance, and they were making money. Like, they were like people back in the 90s or so. They were making money, and I was like, and at one point I was really envious of it, because I was like, oh my God, these people here. I'm mission driven and I'm doing stuff, but these people making money. And one day, this wasn't a friend of mine. It was someone that my friend worked with. It was a banker. And he came to me and we were talking. We were at an event or something, a dinner or something. And he said, I am so jealous of you. And I was like, what? What are you jealous of? And he's like, because you are working as something that's meaningful and worthwhile. Mm-hmm. And you're making a difference in the world, and you're doing these things, and you are doing it. And me, I just make money for more people, and I make money and I do these things. And I was like, it was a way to reframe it that was really helpful for me, of thinking through, like, I was envious of something that I was envious of the money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? I was envious of the money and the title and what that person was doing. But, right, having someone reframe it of like, but you're doing something that helps people. You're doing something that's worthwhile. And it's funny because, right, there are moments where I'm like, wow, Gerald, you can go in the business world and you can make more money. But it's never driven me in that way, right? I've never been driven which is surprising to me.
For someone who likes lovely things and nice shoes.
Someone that likes lovely things and trips and things, that I've never been driven in that way, that I should make so much money that it's been mostly about, can I look at myself in the mirror and feel like I've done something? And I guess that's back to having a spiritual practice, but also being sort of like someone that wants to be able to say like, what difference did I make in the world? Not that I have to make a huge difference in the world, but what difference did I make in the world?
What difference?
What difference did I make for people? What difference did I make for young people? What difference did I make for older people? What difference did I make for just people in general? Right? Yeah.
I've always had this sort of thing of that any interaction that I have with someone, I hope that I leave them feeling better than they were before I spoke to them.
Yeah.
And it's not and I think it's just because I I like to have interesting conversations. I like to have a laugh. I like to be lighthearted as well. This isn't all like big serious stuff. It's also lighthearted. But I think that is the bit where you're talking about the ripples in the pond, because when I was running my happiness clubs and doing all this work in, called 15 years ago or so, the thing was, the impact that you have on one person gets passed on to the next person, because that person then leaves you and then they feel like they've had a really nice interaction with somebody, and they've had a bit of kindness towards them, or even if it's just a smile, whatever, and then they're more likely to go on and pass that on to the next person and to the next person, and that's how we send those ripples out in the world. And when you can do that through your work, then that is the thing. I think it's about that impact where you go, oh, that's great. You see something happen. So you working with, whether it's your coaching individually, and you get somebody coming back and saying, oh, I've managed to reframe that. I've solved a problem. I've now got a new direction. I'm going, oh, thank you. Or the charity or non-profit who are suddenly going, oh, we found a way to find new funders, or to reframe how we are, how to share with our story with other people as to how we're actually, what we're about and what we're doing, and we're actually being able to then have a bigger impact on the people that we want to work with and help and solve, because you've helped them do that.
Yeah.
That's the stuff, isn't it, that actually that keeps you going and doing it.
Yeah. It's interesting. So someone I coached about a year or two ago reached out to me. And she has a couple times, and she reached out, and she's like, I need you to know how big an impact you had on my life and what I've done. And I've published 3 books since we met, and self-published these books, and she sent them to me, and they're hilarious. But I was, it's the thing of where you like, I didn't go into it. I'm like, I'm here to help you, but I didn't go into this thinking I need to make an impact on your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just like, I'm here to help you and share myself with you, and you share yourself with me. And hopefully from that joining of us doing that as 2 people in this coaching relationship, it helps you. But you might never know how it helps you, right? If the person comes back to you and tells you that this is very helpful to you, or sometimes people will say it to you during the session, like, this is really helpful to me, and that's great. But sometimes people go away and then you never hear from them again. And it reminds me of, and I'm going to butcher this saying, because I always do. But it's like, it's the one where, you plant the seed for the tree, knowing you may never sit under the shade of that tree, right? You might never know it, right? And that is how I look at it, of like, I think, but for how I interact business-wise, is that it's like, right? I think that's how I looked at it when I run nonprofits, and when I work with young people and I work with kids. I'm like, I might never hear from you again. If I do, that's great, and I have from several young people that I work with, which is always very wonderful and heartwarming. But for a lot of times, I'm like, I'm doing this, and I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea. Yeah. Hopefully this will help you in some way, and you will go, but I'm not going to sit under the shade of your greatness, your wonderfulness as a human being, right? That person's going to go off and they'll do whatever they do. But I'm not, you're not looking for a reward.
Yeah.
Right. It's a thing.
But it is lovely when we do get someone who comes back and tells you, because because here's the thing, right?
We're still people.
Spiritual. Yeah. We're human. We're still human.
We're still human. We're still people. Right?
Words of affirmation are definitely one of my love languages.
Good. Tell me, right? Tell me. It's great. You can tell me if you can. You don't have to, but that was great, right? Yeah. The thing, she sent me the books, and I just got them, and I was reading through them, and I'm like, oh my God, looking through them, I'm like, I can't wait to read these. This is great. And she's just like, you really helped me. And I think it's that thing of like, as much as I don't need it, it's good to get. So that's not saying that, because we're so spiritual, we don't need affirmation. I love a good affirmation. I love a good affirmation. Tell me I'm fantastic. That's always good.
But maybe that might also just maybe spark somebody, if you're listening to this, is to go and say, well, we don't move through the world as individuals. We are moving through the world, also always interacting with other people. And if you think now, if this conversation has sparked a little memory in you, was going, do you know what? That person had such an impact on me, and I've never thanked them. I've never gone back, and it's not even necessarily the thanks, but I've never gone back and shared what impact that has had on my life. And it might have been a one conversation, it might have been a bit of work you did together or whatever. I would say, go and do it, because you'll feel better for doing it, and the person's literally going to go, oh, thank you so much for doing that. So there you go.
I have a couple of teachers growing up who Mrs. Grimes, who I would say put me on a path education wise, and I don't think I ever got a chance to thank her for. I never got a chance to. I have no idea if she's alive still. I doubt it. She might be 100. I don't know how she is. Anyway, thank you, Mrs. Grimes. Right, it was great as that sort of thank you, right, of someone who, especially teachers, right, because I think teachers are there and they're doing this work, so we don't get to that chance to thank them at all, because right, we go off to another school or you go off to life and you do your thing. But if you do get a chance to thank your teachers, to be able to say thank you for what you've for helping me, right, with no idea that what was going to happen when you did it. Right.
And those teachers, and that's the thing, is that they could be teachers in a formal sense of education, but we come across teachers in our lives all the time. And this is the bit where I go, that's when we've had somebody who's really made an impact. For me, I look at that now and go, that was like a spiritual intervention almost. That person was sharing some wisdom. And where did that wisdom come from? So we think about our lived experience of whatever it was, but I also think it's like, so were they, did they connect with you? And this is my thing around the consciousness piece, that, we've got this, this, all these webs of things going on there, and go, this, this person, somehow or other, you send out this vibration, this frequency of needing some guidance, whatever it is. And then some people say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. That sort of thing, is that somebody then comes into your life and has a conversation with you, or points you in the direction of something else, or, whatever it is. And now, it might even be you open up your computer to search for something, and suddenly you've got something appears and you're going, oh, I've been searching for this forever, and suddenly now I've got it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, I think, that the bit for me is then the bit of magic, I think, that happens around this. So my operating system is actually kind of tuned in a little bit more, I think, to the kind of magical frequencies that are around in this, and actually like to see that as well, when you get those little bits where somebody goes, oh, I was having that conversation with somebody and you've just come and said the same thing to me, or we've just had those synchronicities of stuff that kind of that appear. And I like to see those little glimmers of stuff that just kind of that pop as well. So
I love that, right? When you like that, I think what we call coincidence.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not coincidence. It is the universe bringing you what you need, or connecting you with someone who at that point you need. It has somehow found its way into your life because of like where you've placed yourself or what it is. And I just find that I'm always like completely like, oh, I met this person who does this thing, or I met this person who we were talking about this thing, and because right then in my life I need to talk to that person about that thing or whatever that was, or that person's come into my life and I never thought I would meet that, or someone introduces you to someone and you're like, oh, this person's become a good friend of mine. Why has that person become a good friend? Because we vibe spiritually. Someone introduces you to someone who wants to start a nonprofit, and you say, oh, and you wind up talking for 5-6 years, and you start podcasting together. Right? That's the universe, right? That's spirituality. It brings you together.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's the bit we're talking about, how we move through the world as some sort of spiritually aware soul, is that we then see these things we attach some sort of meaning to those as well that
Yeah.
others might not, you know, and there's a whole lot of people who would go, oh, it's just a coincidence, it's just that, you know, and that's whatever your belief system is, that's fine. But yeah, I think that's the bit. It opens you up then to the wonders of the world in a different way. And therefore that's why the impact that for me, the impact that we have while we're here is important to then consider. So, and it doesn't mean we don't get things wrong and we don't, you know, like maybe say stuff that we maybe regret later. None of us are, we're not saints, you know, it's like, it's not that we're saintly.
No.
So, you know, Saint Gerald.
Well, it's making me sit back and sit back and go, oh, you know, you're like, you hope you leave a better impact on people. And I was like, there are probably a couple boyfriends that think I'm an ass, right? Like, right, and we'll always think that way. I hope I right. I was like, there was something about it that was great, was good, but now we're not together, right? Depending on how it ended, right? And if it ended badly, then you're like, oh, well, maybe I didn't make that positive an impact. That person can't see it, right? Though I think for everyone that I've dated, if it didn't end well, I still learned something from it, right? There's still something I got from them. Our time together taught me something. Our breakup taught me something, right? There's something about all of that in there that you have to be able, you have to be willing to see it, right? And willing to open yourself up to the fact that, right, if it's a bad breakup, you might be mad at that person for a long time, but at some point, that person was in your life for a reason.
I mean, if we think about, we think about life being a learning experience, you know, that's the, you know, just, and that's the thing is that you're going to, you know, you can look back often at things afterwards and go, oh, okay, yeah, I learned something from that. You know, when you're in the midst of the storm.
When you're missing the storm, you don't see it.
You're like, you know, but yeah, that's the thing, but you look back afterwards and you go, yeah, so whether it was that job that you had or that relationship that you had or that organisation or that piece of work that you took on that you thought maybe I shouldn't, but I've done it anyway because I'm, you know, I need to make the money. And but I think if we are able to stop and reflect back, you can look and you go, okay, that was maybe a little lesson. Sometimes we've had bigger lessons.
Yeah. I would say, right, from every job, right, the jobs I've had and the business you've done, the people the companies we work with and everything, there's something I've learned from them. As much as I hope that they've taken away something from being with me and being with us, there's stuff I've learned from them or stuff I've gotten from them and something I've gotten from them. Like, I know I have one job that placed me in a position to take the other job, which was one of the best jobs I ever had. But the thing actually that I think I got from that job and why I was in that job was to make friends. I have two friends who are still two of my best friends, two great friends of mine that I got from that job. And that to me is like, that's why I was there, to meet those people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have met them I wouldn't have met them any other way, right? If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have met them any other way. So it is, sometimes that's it, right? And you wonder what it is, that's the thing that the universe, or why it's weaving whatever it's weaving, right? You're like, why am I in this job? And you leave and you're like, oh, but I wound up with this amazing human being who is a friend of mine and has been in my life and brings so much value and joy to it that I'm like, oh, that's why I had that job. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I got some other things too from some benefits, but this is really why I was here.
Yeah, and that only comes with time, because that's the weird thing about time, isn't it? Because we have to actually have a bit of perspective on something to look back and go, oh God, you know, like you said, that wasn't a good time in my life, and then you go, well, actually, there was a lot that I gained from that experience. And there was a lot of stuff that I learned from that. And there was a lot of stuff that then took me to this level that I would never have been there if that hadn't happened. And we, you know, generally, I mean, here's the thing, because people say to me, but surely we could learn just from good experiences. And I was like, no, because from human perspective, we usually learn more from pain.
We usually learn from pain, right? From the the thing that, like, the trial, right? The thing that is the hard thing is the thing you learn the most. If it's all great, you're like, oh, everything's rosy, it's fabulous. You're not learning anything. You
Yeah.
don't really learn anything, right?
Yeah.
But with those, it was making me think of the one job I had where they tell you never to burn a bridge, and I had
Yeah.
one job. I nuked that bridge. I burned everything. I burned the landscape. I burned everything around it. But that was the job where I encountered Buddhism, right? And that's why I was there, right? Out of adversity, right? Out of what in Buddhism we say turning poison into medicine, right? And that out of that hard adversity, rough job, I found Buddhism. I started my practice, right? And so that's that in essence. If you look at the universe, putting you in the places where you need to be, and giving you, right, what is it? Not more than you can handle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Though I think sometimes the universe does. What I say, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. I say the universe, well, yes, sometimes it gives you more than you can handle. That's fine, because then you learn how to handle it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You should get more than you can handle, because that's how else do you learn.
That's how we become more resilient. You aren't just born resilient. You actually become resilient from overcoming and facing the challenges. And then, but that is also then with help, and that's the bit. It's like we don't do it alone.
We don't do it alone.
With
right. That's why people, right? You have friends, you have people. That's right. It's back to this alone, right? We don't walk through the universe alone.
No. Yeah. No, it's an interesting space. So if you hadn't, and that's the thing, if you hadn't been in that job, if you hadn't been introduced to, your spiritual practice, and you said last time, which I had never known about you, like how much that has really impacted your own personality and your ability to kind of deal with situations in the world, so that you are not the angry man that other people would have known you as, which I cannot imagine at all.
You didn't see me go off with someone on the bus. That's what it's right. That's when people were like, wow, who is this person? Like, right? That person doesn't exist anymore. That person's gone.
Yeah. That's the kind of bit of the conversation we were having before we started to record about how that having some sort of awareness, some sort of spiritual practice, some sort of thing that actually allows you to kind of connect with something that's a deeper part of yourself, or a higher essence, whatever you want to call it, it gives you that space so that we just don't react the same. We're not just in our thoughts and reacting just the same as we started. We're talking about, how we react in business, how we react to other people, how we react to situations. And if more people were aware of their connection to this sort of like kind of spiritual centre, and how that spiritual centre is connected to consciousness, and therefore we are all connected to each other.
That's right.
Then, maybe we wouldn't have quite so a reactive world, and that's
yeah. Back to thinking about other people, right? Right, like thinking about other people and how other people are living and how other people are moving through the world, right? Everyone's going through their own struggle, and like accepting that everyone's going through their own thing and everyone's doing their things, and what can you do? What sometimes that smile that you gave them brighten their day and lighten their load a little bit, or you holding the door open for somebody, or it's a small, right, down from the small things to the large things, right? That is right. I think we were talking about collective consciousness before, right? And that I think somewhere in the last, well, maybe never, but I would say in the last literally decade, we lost this idea that we're all in this together, right? We're all in this, working this together. And if we actually, right, your success is my success is your success, right? Your happiness, how we all make each other happy. And at some point, we're now all sort of vibing on this weird, I would call it stressed out, freaked out frequency. And I think everybody is. Is that now you can see it, right? Because it's manifesting itself in how the universe, how the world is currently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And how people are reacting, and to however you feel about migrants. I'm a migrant. I live in the UK. I'm a migrant, right? however you feel about people who are here for whatever reasons, or however things are going and what's immigration and all these things, but how people are living the world, right? Of like jobs, poverty, all that. I mean, we could go on and on, but it's like if we all just have to sort of be like, you know what? Can we support each other?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Can we? Can I? Can I? Can I? Can I? What do you need?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I look at that as the beauty of coaching. Right. Usually when I start a coaching relationship with someone, I'm like, what do you need? How can I help you? And you'll have someone that they'll talk and say, I feel really bad. I'm like, if this is what you need right now, this is what I'm here for, to listen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, and offer and ask some questions and to be able to let you think about it and to give you the space. If you are here to this is what happened to me today and I need to talk about it. You talk about it. That's good. That's what it is.
Yeah. And that thing about being able to actually figure out what you need, because it's the same conversation I've been having, particularly this month actually in Big Soul Network. We've been talking about the practical things about if you're running a small business and you're struggling with something. What is the thing that would, what one thing could really help you? And people often say, oh, if I just had more clients, and I was like, no, but actually come back from that. And what is it that you need? Well, actually, do you know what would really help? I don't have a printer. And every time I want to print something, I need to go, and it's like, okay, here's something really practical, small, tangible that, well, actually, does anybody live nearby that person? Do you have a printer?
Right.
Could we have a collect? Like, what else do people need? What is the thing that we could actually share? When you can then go, how can we share resources? And then that sharing of resources doesn't mean that you don't have anything and they have everything. It's the be able to go, well, actually, do you know what? If we could actually share this stuff, everybody then could thrive. Unfortunately, we've been in like you said, particularly, the last decade has been, particularly problematic around that, about there's not enough to go round. Therefore, if we give to them, or if they are here and they take, whoever the they is, take stuff, you don't have. So the reason you don't have is because they have, and therefore, and it's like, well, actually, do you know what? If you come at this from a completely different perspective, and if you look and you say, well, how can we share the resources that everybody needs, and then everybody thrives, and that we can see each other as a soul, regardless of what the meat suit looks like, or where we physically happen to be living at one point in time and come, yeah. And it's that, I think that's the thing, if we can, here's me in my Pollyanna vision of the world again, going, do you know, that thing of, just being able to go, right, okay, if I look and say, how can we share the resources of things that are here in such a way that everybody then thrives? And that might be for small businesses then, that you all make money, that everybody makes money and everybody makes enough money, because this is the other thing, we do need money in the world. We still live in a world that has money. So we need money. We
still like nice things. We still like nice things.
We like nice things, yeah. And it's not, that's not a case of saying, oh, well, if you're spiritual now, you don't need money, and you don't want nice shoes. You can just live in a sackcloth and that's it.
No. I'm not going towards the monk. I might be spiritual, but I'm not a monk, right? I'm not going that route. No.
But that's the essence for me, I think, around this. Yeah. That's the operating system. As I said, that's my operating system. And if, if we have the conversations, then maybe somebody else just goes, okay, I maybe don't get it. And that's the thing. People come at this from so many different angles and different places. But if we, if perhaps maybe somebody just listening goes, okay, that's interesting.
Okay. Right. And we're not trying, it's because it's making me think, right? I could see people coming at this and going like, these two people are trying to preach to me. We are not trying to preach to you. Right? No. Do not sit back. Do not comment on this and go, they don't, right? You're trying to tell us what to do. We're not trying to tell you what to do. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. Live your life. Live your truth. Be you. You do you. Right? But if in some way what we're saying resonates, I hope it does. And that is as far as it goes. I hope it helps you in some way. If what we're saying to you is saying what we say to each other, we hope it helps you in some way. That's as far as it goes. That's as far as it goes.
And that's what Soul Kind Connections has been about. We've come at this. We've said you and I come from different backgrounds, different experiences. We've been able to be vulnerable with each other, and it's because we have got to know each other. We've got to trust each other. We can share those conversations, and we don't always necessarily even agree or understand each other's perspective until we have the conversation.
That's right.
And that's really, that was what we sort of said. Well, if we have the conversation, yeah, and maybe we've just sparked a little bit of inspiration for people to go and have a conversation with somebody else. Yeah.
That's right. Right. You see the two of them and you go, I saw this podcast of these two people and they were saying this. What do you think of it? I saw that too. Or I didn't see that. Tell me more. Right. But that thing, if it does something, that's great. If it's some inspiration or some sort of spark.
That would be lovely. So, and if you want to connect with us, and there'll be stuff in show notes and things that you can.
There'll be some. You can figure out how to find Big Soul Network
and
B&G partners.
Yeah. If there's something around that resonates with you, then we'll be interested to continue the conversation with you.
Have the conversation. All right. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. We'll be back again next time something else.
Something that we have talked about before we started and been like, this is what we're going to talk about today.
Thanks for listening, folks, and we'll see you again.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation. And if you did, it would be great if you could leave us a 5-star review and maybe even share this with someone else that you think might enjoy it.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope you join us next week for our next Soul Kind Connections conversation. Bye.